Welcome back to the deep dive. Usually when we talk about a family tree on the show, we're looking at, European royalty or maybe the lineage of a specific programming language.
Right, C++ or something.
Exactly. We don't typically look at a shrub.
No, not usually. But if we're being honest, the family tree we're diving into today is probably more influential to modern pop culture than the Habsburgs.
That is a bold claim, but looking at our source material, I think I agree with you. Today, we're looking at a full-on genealogical investigation into one of the most influential cannabis plants in history.
Triangle Kush. Or just TK.
And the document we have is incredible. It's the Triangle Kush family tree and genetic lineage map from Nug Notes.
It is massive. Calling it a map is actually a bit modest. It looks more like a circuit board for a supercomputer.
Or a subway map for a city the size of Tokyo. It traces the genetics from one single accidental moment in the early 90s, too.
To, well, pretty much everything you see on a dispensary shelf today.
That was the hook for me. I opened this file, and I saw names I recognize everywhere. Wedding cake, GMO, ice cream cake, jungle cake. I mean, you see these names on menus constantly.
All the time.
But I had no idea. They all trace back to this one specific matriarch plant. It's like finding out that every major rock band in history is actually just a cousin of the Beatles.
That is a surprisingly accurate analogy. And that's our mission for this deep dive. We want to unpack that lineage for you.
So we're going to take you from that Big Bang moment in Florida, right?
Yeah, through the underground preservation era, and then finally to the massive commercial empire of the cake strains.
By the end of this, you're going to understand why your favorite modern strain tastes the way it does, and how it's likely a grandchild or great-grandchild of this one ancestor.
Triangle Kush.
So before we get into the burgers and the cakes and all the wild names, we have to start at the root.
We have to. And the source material highlights a very specific origin story. This isn't just, message board rumors.
So it comes with a year and a location.
Right. We're looking at the account provided by a grower named Marty. The year is 1991.
Let's set the scene. 1991. Nirvana's about to release. Never mind. The internet is barely a thing for most people, and down in Boca Raton, Florida, there's a seed event that changes everything.
And the funny thing is, it started as a total mistake, a disaster, really.
That's so.
The story goes that there was a grow room in the Emerald Triangle, that legendary region up in Northern California, and they were growing Hindu Kush genetics from Amsterdam. And those plants hermed.
Okay, let's unpack that term hermed right away, because if you're not a botanist, that sounds like nonsense. My understanding is it's a stress reaction.
Basically, yes. Cannabis plants are usually male or female. You want the females for the flower, the buds. But under stress leaks, temperature swings, a female plant can develop male pollen sacs.
It's a survival thing.
Exactly. It's a desperate attempt to reproduce before it dies. It creates these hermaphroditic traits.
And in a commercial crop, that's usually the worst-case scenario.
Oh, it's a nightmare. It means your buds fill up with seeds. Nobody wants to smoke seeds. They pop. They taste terrible. But in this specific case, that accident was a lottery win.
Because those hermit plants pollinated the whole room.
They created unintended seeds. Nature basically forced a breeding event.
So a grower named Dax takes these accidental seeds and he just pops them. To see what he's got.
Pretty much. And he found a specific phenotype, single plant that was just different. Better structure, better smell, better potency. And that keeper cut became the triangle.
And this is where the geography shifts. The seeds might have origins in California, but the legend is pure Florida. The notes talk about the Florida crew.
And this is crucial context. You have to remember, in the early 90s, you couldn't just ship clones via FedEx. This was the underground.
Right.
The Triangle crew, including the Swamp Boys and a figure known as Chrome, they kept this plant alive. They moved it hand to hand.
It creates this image of a secret society. You had to know a guy who knew a guy just to get a piece of this plant.
And you had to keep it alive. I mean, if you lost your mother plant to mites or mold, the genetic line was just over. There was no backup.
The document gives huge respect to those Florida holders.
As it should. Swamp Boys, Chrome, and others, they preserved the line when it could have just gone extinct.
Speaking of crumb, I need to clear something up. I've seen the white on menus for years, often right next to Triangle Kush. I always assumed the white was a daughter of TK.
You and a lot of other people. It's a really common misconception.
But looking at this map, I've been totally wrong.
The Nug Notes map makes a very specific distinction here. The white, famous for being just caked in white trichomes, hence the name, is not a child of Triangle Kush. They're described as parallel Florida cuts.
So they aren't mother and daughter, they're more like high school classmates.
That is a great way to put it, yeah. They grew up in the same neighborhood, ran in the same circles, probably sat in the same grow rooms, but they're distinct genetic lines.
They only connected later on.
Right, when breeders intentionally cross them to combine their superpowers.
Okay, so the triangle is secure in Florida. It's the 90s. It's underground. Now let's look at how it starts to branch out. The first big lane on this map is the Swamp Boys lane.
This is really the foundation. The Swamp Boys are legends for taking that core Florida DNA, which is often very gassy, very potent, and just refining it.
Gas is a term we see everywhere in these notes. For the listener who might just buy whatever smells fruity, what are we actually talking about with gas?
We're talking about chemical potency, fuel, diesel. It literally smells like a gas station, but in a way that signals high THC to your brain.
And the Swamp Boys leaned into this.
Yeah.
They crossed the white with fire OG to create Wi-Fi was everywhere a few years ago. It felt like the default high-end strain for a long time.
It really was. And that's because it combined the insane resin production of the white with the raw power of fire OG. And since TK is the grandmother of the OG lines, this is really all about Florida originals. It's about potency.
I'm looking at some of the other names in this lane, and they just sound aggressive. Juggernaut, Trigerian.
Trigerian is an interesting one because it breaks the pattern a bit. It's Triangle Kush crossed with Nigerian genetics.
Nigerian is a landrace sativa, right? Pure energy.
Correct. So instead of just compounding the sleepy, heavy effects of the Kush, they injected this electric, racy sativa energy into it. It shows how versatile TK is as a parent.
And then you have Juggernaut.
Which sounds like it would just run you over.
Yeah, probably would.
It's a complex cross. Sour diesel, GMO, Triangle Kush, and skunk. It's just a kitchen sink of funk.
Terrifying and wonderful. So the Swamp Boys kept the gas alive. But then we see a massive shift on the map. We move from the swamp to the bakery.
This is the pivot point. This is where Triangle Kush goes from underground legend to commercial empire.
And it's mostly thanks to Junky genetics.
Almost entirely.
If you walk into a dispensary today, I feel like half the menu is some kind of cake. And you're saying this all comes from one breeding decision.
It really does. Junky took the Triangle Kush and crossed it with a strain called Animal Mints. And that cross created a new strain called Triangle Mints.
Okay, Triangle Mints, solid name, but I don't see that on billboards.
Not the strain name itself, no. But this is where phenohunting comes in. When you cross two plants, you get seeds. Each seed is like a sibling. They share parents, but they're all a little different.
Right.
So Junky grew out all these Triangle Mint seeds looking for the absolute winner, and phenotype number 23 stood out.
Lucky number 23.
They nicknamed that specific plant wedding cake.
Wait, wedding cake is Triangle Mints.
Genetically, yes. Wedding cake is just the name for the elite cut, the best of the best from that Triangle Mints seed pop. And that one plant changed the industry.
Why? What made it so special? Was it just the name?
The name helped, for sure. It suggests celebration, sweetness. But for a grower, wedding cake just checked every single box. It had the potency of the Kush, but it had the density and the bag appeal of the cookie lineage.
And it probably looked great on Instagram.
Crucial for the modern era. It yielded well, it was stable, it was beautiful, the perfect commercial storm.
And looking at the data here, the impact is just staggering. Approximately 404 direct descendants. That's a dynasty.
It is a genetic explosion. Because it was so good, everyone wanted to breed with it. Wedding cake became the mother of ice cream cake, which is wedding cake crossed with gelato, #33.
It's the parent of LA Kush cake.
And jungle cake.
It's like the Genghis Khan of cannabis plants. Its genes are everywhere.
Basically, yeah. And it sparked this whole naming thing. Once wedding cake was a bestseller, everyone started using cake names.
It became a signal to the customer.
Exactly. It tells you what the vibe is.
The list of names here is hilarious. I have to read some. We have divorce cake, which is White Widow X wedding cake. Very clever.
A little dark, but clever.
There's layer cake, mitten cake batter, milk and cake, and my personal favorite, pie do, which is do-si-dos crossed with wedding cake.
It's a marketing language. You see cake on the bag, you expect creamy, sweet, doughy terpenes with a heavy effect, and it all traces back to Grandma Triangle Kush providing that backbone.
So we have the Swamp Boys keeping it gassy, and Junky turning it into a dessert menu. But there's another group here doing something different. The Jungle Boys.
Right. If Junky is about expansion and creating new flavors, Jungle Boys are more about preservation and refinement. You'll see the term BX a lot in their section.
Let's unpack BX. It stands for back cross, right?
Yes. Imagine you have a plant you love, like the original Triangle Kush, but you only have a female cutting, so you can't make pure seeds. You want to create a seed version that's as close to the original mother as possible.
You want to back up the file.
Exactly, so you cross the mother with a male. Then you take the kids from that cross, and you breed them back to the original mother. You do this over and over.
BX1, BX2, BX3.
And each time, you're reinforcing the mother's genetics. You're trying to stabilize the line so that every seed grows up looking just like mom.
So Jungle Boys are the archivists here.
In a way, yes. You see strains like TK-BX1 or TK43, which is Wi-Fi #43, crossed back to Triangle Kush. They also have a whole Florida series, Florida Kush, Florida Oranges, Florida Wedding. They're really leaning into the heritage.
Florida Oranges sounds delicious.
It's a heavy citrus profile. And then they have Gator Breath.
Which sounds less delicious.
Depends on what you like. Gator Breath is Motor Breath 15 crossed with TK-BX1. It is pure, absolute funk.
So while Jungle Boys are refining the core, there's another breeder on the map taking TK in a totally different direction.
Bodhi seeds.
This is the section labeled the Black Lane. And honestly, looking at these names, it feels like we just walked out of a dispensary and into a sci-fi convention.
Bodhi is a really unique figure. He focuses on what some people call the deep indica axis. He took Triangle Kush and crossed it with the legendary 88 G13 hash plant. That created Black Triangle.
That sounds ominous.
It is heavy. This is not the let's go for a hike weed. This is glued to the couch, thinking about the universe medicine. Very resinous, very hashy.
And he kept going with this theme.
Oh, yeah. He has a male plant he named Wookie, like Chewbacca.
Okay, I'm listening.
And he crossed TK with Wookie to make a stream called Phone Home.
Phone Home. The E.T. reference. I love it.
Then there's Space Monkey, which is Gorilla Glue #4 crossed with Wookie, and Han Solo hash plant.
It's interesting because the cake stuff feels very commercial, very pop music. This Bodhi lane feels more spiritual, or at least more counterculture.
That's a great distinction. Bodhi's work highlights the medicinal, almost sedative side of TK. Not the creamy cake side, not the sharp citrus side, but the deep, earthy, physical relief side.
It just shows how versatile this one grandma plant is.
You can steer her genetics anywhere, toward cake, toward gas, or toward deep space hashy vibes.
Let's talk about those other directions. The map has these specific flavor lanes. We touched on gas and cake, but there's a huge citrus section here too.
This is where you see how breeders use TK to anchor these wild flavors. You'd think Kush is just earthy, right? But you cross it with Tangy, which is pure tangerine, and you get TKT. Or Florida Lemons, which is TKX, lemon skunk.
I bet that Florida Lemons is zesty.
It's incredible. You get that sharp, almost artificial lemon candy smell from the skunk, but because it has the TK backbone, it actually has body to it. It's not just a wispy sativa.
And orange push pop.
PKX orange cookies.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm getting hungry. But for those who don't want fruit, there's the gas lane. I see a highway name.
I-95, named after the interstate that runs up the East Coast, connecting Florida to, well, everywhere else.
Very appropriate.
It is. I-95, the strain, is Triangle Kush's Legend OGX Stardog. It is just pure chemical funk, and this is where we need to connect a dot for people. GMO.
Right. Everyone knows GMO garlic, mushroom, onion. Where does the garlic soup fit into the cake factory?
So GMO is a grandchild. The map notes that GMO is part of that whole triangle mince ecosystem we talked about earlier. It's not a direct child of TK, but it carries that bloodline.
And from GMO, we get the whole burger wave.
Donnie Burger, Han Solo Burger, all of it.
It's just wild that a plant that smells like garlic and onions is related to a plant that smells like wedding cake.
It just shows you how complex the chemistry is. A tiny tweak in the terpene ratios changes cream to funk.
And we can't forget the candy lane. This is the Runts and Skittles era.
The modern era. Breeders realize that while strains like Skittles taste amazing like a mouthful of candy, they sometimes lack punch. They can be a bit weak.
So what do?
You call Grandma.
You call Grandma Triangle.
Exactly. You cross Skittles with TK to get Triangle Skittles. You cross it with Runts to get Patriot Kush. You get that incredible candy flavor, but you get the heavy, satisfying effect of the Kush.
It seems like the strategy for the last 10 years has been take the flavor of the month, cross it with Triangle Kush to make it actually strong, and then give it a cool name.
That is essentially the business model of modern cannabis breeding, yeah.
Which leads us perfectly to the final section, the polyhybrids. The notes call this the kitchen sink approach.
We are deep in the era of polyhybrids. That means taking two hybrid parents who are already complex crosses of 4 or 5 other plants and just smashing them together.
So TK might be the grandmother on the father's side and the great-grandmother on the mother's side.
The gene pool is getting very deep and very murky, and the names reflect that chaos.
Oh, I have a list here. Some of these are creative. Pink Taco, which is a Tropicana Cookies X Triangle Mints cross.
Creative is one word for it.
Married with Children, which is GG4X Triangle Mints.
That one actually makes sense. A chaotic marriage of two powerful families, the Glues and the Mints.
Billy Idol, spelled IAGLE, which is the White X Triangle Mints, Rubber Pie, Minute Berry Crunch, and Orgy Kush.
Which is TKX White OGV2. I suppose with that many genetics involved, the name kind of fits.
It really paints a picture of the culture, doesn't it? It's not just botany, it's pop culture, it's humor. But amidst all these funny names, the notes point out there are serious award winners here. This isn't just novelty.
Absolutely not. The map mentions The Truth by True Canna Genetics, which took second place at a High Times Cup, and Roses by O.G. Cushman, which won multiple Emerald Cup awards.
These are championship genetics.
Competing at the highest possible level of cultivation.
So we've traced it from a hermit plant in a room in 1991 to literally hundreds, maybe thousands of descendants? The scale is just hard to wrap your head around.
The numbers in the Nug Notes outro really drive it home. Roughly 300 direct descendants of Triangle Kush, about 28 from Triangle Mints, and then the explosion over 400 direct descendants of Wedding Cake.
And that's just what's recorded in this one database.
Exactly. The downstream generation is in the thousands. If you buy cannabis today, specifically anything with cake, mints, fuel, or burger in the name, you are likely consuming a distant relative of that 1991 plant.
It's fascinating to think about the butterfly effect here. One grower, Dax, decided to keep one specific plant. If he'd thrown it out, or if that room hadn't hermed,
Or if the Florida crew hadn't kept it alive.
the entire flavor palette of the 2020s would be completely different.
You might not have wedding cake, we might not have GMO. The industry would look and taste completely different.
It makes you look at a single seed so differently. You aren't just holding a plant, you're holding a potential dynasty.
You really are.
So here's a question to leave you with, listener. We know that one accidental pollination in 1991 created the genetic backbone for the modern industry. It took 30 years to fully play out. So what happy accident is sitting in a grow room somewhere right now, unnoticed, that's going to define what we're all talking about in 2050?
That's the exciting part. We won't know until we look back at the family tree.
Exactly. Thanks for diving deep with us into the roots of the triangle. Check out the show notes if you want to see the visual map from Nug Notes. It's a labyrinth, but a fun one. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.
Stay curious.